Welcome to our workshop, Metadata and SharePoint. I'm Heather. I work on marketing and customer success efforts here at TeamSlide. And today I'll be teaching you about metadata alongside Kartik, who's the co-founder of TeamSlide. And if you're new here, TeamSlide is a slide library solution in PowerPoint that provides teams with super easy access to company-approved assets. And a little bit about us, we're a global team. We have colleagues all over the world. One of the highlights of our year is meeting together for an in-person company meeting, usually in Hamburg, Germany, where we strategize, talk about our vision, and also get to have fun experiences like the picture here. We did a 3-course cooking experience together, and we love it so much. We do it almost every time we get together. So highly recommend if you're looking for a team experience. But today we'll teach you about what metadata is, why it's important and matters, and how you can actually apply it in your SharePoint account to improve your content organization. The term metadata itself may seem a little bit like you need a PhD to understand what it is, but it's really not that complex. So that's the good news. It's just data that provides information about other data. You can see pictured here, there's a slide, and when we click into the slide information, we can see all of that slide's metadata: description, URL, category, file name. But you could also have other forms of metadata like author or genre, date created, date modified. Another example is your own personal metadata, your name, your address, your phone number. So why should we use it? Basically, metadata provides context around where something came from and when it was created, or even who created it. So if there's a question to be asked, you can probably find the answer through metadata, which is really valuable. Also is valuable in terms of version control and managing your content library. So sorting and filtering content using metadata is a powerful way to group or locate your specific files. And then content systems like SharePoint actually allow you to sort by date or author or customizable fields as well. Essentially, we're going to create uniformity here. And that's good news, because if you have a disorganized SharePoint site, this will just help you kind of get things under control by creating a taxonomy and applying metadata to files and folders, so you'll better find what you're looking for. We can't teach about metadata in SharePoint without touching on the architecture of SharePoint. So at the very top level, you have your Office 365 account, like ours would be something like teamslide.sharepoint.com. So that's your very top level there. Site collections are at the second level within your SharePoint site. This can only be created by admins. Then you can see what all falls beneath that. And I think the most important note here is just that libraries are at the very bottom of the hierarchy, meaning that there cannot be any sites beneath that. Your document library will contain like your folders and files. And so if you create columns in your document library, it will only be applied there. Before you take any of these wonderful tactics that we're going to show you to heart, just a warning to the wise: make sure you write out a really good plan before you implement anything in your own SharePoint site, just so that you're not creating a bigger mess than what you're starting with. Metadata is applied through columns in SharePoint, and you can see in the rectangles, the red rectangles here, these are what columns look like. They can be applied to folders or to files. And we'll actually, in a minute, Kartik will walk us through how to create these. But before we create them, one more thing to note is what types of columns we have. So we have global and local columns, which is pretty self-explanatory, but just gives you an idea of where the column will be available and what it could apply to. So at the top level, I guess you could say, is a site column. This is going to be available on all sites and subsites of your SharePoint account. Whereas a list or a library column, if you remember back to that SharePoint architecture, the document library is at the bottom of the hierarchy. Those are only going to be available locally in those libraries. So now we'll actually jump into creating a SharePoint site, and Kartik will share his screen here and sort of walk us through how to create a site. And then from there, what kinds of columns we can create at the different levels.
Great. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Just let me know. And like Heather said, please add questions and we're happy to pause and answer them along the way as well. Before we jump into metadata, I thought it would be just useful to show how a site is being created in SharePoint. If you're at the top level domain, you can click on Create Site. And within here, you can select the type of site you want. It's a team site or a communication site. Team sites are used for sort of active collaboration, versus communication sites are sort of meant to broadcast your message to your entire organization or your largely at that scale. I'll start with a team site. Within here, SharePoint offers different templates that you can pick from. If you'd be interested in learning more about sites and templates, just drop us a message in the chat. It's something we're considering for an upcoming workshop. But I'll go ahead and pick a standard site. I think this is what most people are using, and we'll dive right in. You can give your site a name, and it gets created for you pretty quickly. So while the site's being created, what we'll do in here is we will create metadata or columns in SharePoint, as Heather mentioned, and we'll do it at the site level, and I'll also show you how you can do it at the document library level as well. So now that my site's done, I can go into the main page. I can start jumping in and trying to make changes in here. So in order to make a site column or add a piece of metadata to the entire site, which would impact all your document libraries and all your lists, you click up here at the gear, you get into site information, and you go into view all site settings. There are a lot of options in here. You can find your site columns. And the site comes in with a bunch of columns that are already in place that you can leverage: address, region. So you can leverage many of these existing columns. But if you need to create a new column, you can go up in here to create one. You can give it a name. Maybe I'll pick industry. You can pick the type of column, so which is essentially the type of data being stored in it. Is it a yes or no? Is it a link? Is it an image? A line of text? I think more often than not, choice ends up being a very popular one, especially for something like industry, where you can preset the industries you serve, and then users have to pick from that list on here. Your columns sit within groups. You can create a new group or use an existing one. There's already a custom columns group, so I'm just going to use that. And I'll go in and type in a few industries in here: automation, and then healthcare, finance. And you can choose the type of options you want: radio buttons or drop-down menu. I think a drop-down menu is pretty natural for this, especially if you have a long list on there. And I'll set the default value to be automation. I actually did that automatically on here. And then I can hit OK. So this creates a column at the site level, but it's not applied yet to my document libraries in here. So if I search for industry, I'll see it in here. It's a choice column, and it's for the current site. And so I can go to home. I can find the document library or the list I'm interested in applying it to. In this case, it's just documents. And again, in here, you can see the default columns that are set up on here. And I'm going to go to the gear here. I'm going to go to library settings and more library settings. And I'm going to pull up columns. Sometimes in this list, I can't see it, but here we are. I can go to add from existing site columns, and then I can pick the one that I want. And hopefully I can find it in here. There we are. Industry, click on add. Cool. Try that again. I'll remove the percent complete. And then I can hit OK. And that should place that column in here as well. So now you can see it listed among the options in here. If you wanted to create a document libraries level column or a list column, you can do that in here just by clicking add column. The interface is a little nicer, but it essentially works the same way as well, where you can type in maybe service line and then type in your service lines in here. I'll leave choice 3 blank and hit save. So now here I'm using a combination of columns, some at the site level, some at the document library level. If I drop in a file, I'll just put in just a template file in here. So if you already have files and folders, you can start editing the columns in here. You can see we set up automation to be the default setting, so it already dropped in here. I often like making changes in the grid view because you can change multiple files at the same time if you have them. You can click on these and you can change the settings and then exit grid view to save. So that's essentially it. Two types of columns at a site level or a document level, document library level. To implement the site columns, you have to go into your site settings, and which is within site information, and make the change there. Once you create the column there, remember you have to come in at the document library level and you have to add it in order to see it in here. It doesn't automatically show up. I found with the customers we work with, often 2 or 3 columns can really help organize the content that you have, especially if you are collating a lot of decks, maybe old pitches that you've done, or if you're in professional services and you have old deliverables, they can become a great way to classify your documents so people can find what they want. And if you have a tight bed of columns, your staff can also ensure that they fill in the values and it's not necessarily centrally done, but you can push some of that effort onto the rest of the team. And just to show you how this might be used in the TeamSlide context, in TeamSlide, we absorb any metadata you have in your content system, whether that's SharePoint in this case, or Box and other places. And you can use that to navigate your content in TeamSlide. So like that industry column we created, I can browse by it and say, show me all my automotive slides, for example, and it'll find those for you. Or if you run a broad search, you have a lot of slides, you can open up the filter, and you can filter by columns that are coming from SharePoint in this case to narrow in on what you want. So whether it's TeamSlide or any other tool you're using or just a SharePoint search, you can leverage that metadata to pinpoint the content that you need. Super, Heather, I'll pass it back to you. I don't know if there were any questions, but I'm happy to answer if there were.
Yeah, anyone have any questions before we wrap up? I will just give a reminder, we are constantly putting out new workshops. So we don't have any on the website right now, but there is a little box on the training workshops page that you can just sign up for workshop only emails. You want to be alerted whenever we release new ones, just sign up there. Okay, so we do have a question that came in. Can we integrate with SharePoint and Box at the same time, or do you have to choose one or another?
Sure. From a TeamSlide perspective, yes, you can connect to both SharePoint and Box at the same time. So TeamSlide can connect to multiple sources at the same time. And within those sources, you can connect to multiple folders or document libraries. And if you have, you will have different metadata in the different content systems. We can also pull in the different types of metadata. So in Box, the default is tags. Some customers with an upgraded version of Box have custom properties. We can pull those in as well. And then, of course, anything from SharePoint can get pulled in.
And then I also see Adelina's asking about downloading a pilot. We don't at this time have an option to download a pilot on your own. We do prefer to set prospects up with an onboarding process. If you want to just reach out to us on our contact form, we can get you set up with everything you need.
We have sort of an intake process where we help you connect to SharePoint and Box, share best practices, and help you determine what tabs you might want across the top and permissions. Somebody from our team, me or someone else, will typically jump on a call and help you configure everything. And you're welcome then to use it for a free pilot with anyone you'd like.
Exactly. Yeah, it's highly customizable. So we just like to make sure you have it customized how you would like it. And then last thing I'll mention is we would really appreciate if you guys would leave us a review on G2. It makes it just really impactful for us, for people to find TeamSlide. And if there's any other workshops you'd like to see us offer, just let us know.
If you have specific questions to your setup, we're happy to schedule a call and help out in any way we can and share best practices from seeing this done at a number of different customers. Super, everyone. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.